Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Randy Opfer with the California Air Resources Board. You're here to go over the general overview for Clean Truck Check. We're going to get started here in just a moment or two. These Zoom webinars oftentimes take a few minutes for everybody to get logged in once we start the actual webinar itself. So hold out with us for just a couple minutes. We'll get the information to you as quickly and neatly as we possibly can. We'll start in just a few minutes. Once again, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Randy Opfer, and I'm with the California Air Resources Board. We're waiting just a couple minutes to make sure everybody that's trying to get in is logged in fully before we can get started with the webinar. I'm looking at the numbers of people who are climbing on as participants, and as soon as it levels off for a little bit, I'll go ahead and start with the material. Just hold with us for a couple minutes, and we'll get going. All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Randy Opfer. Once again, it looks like the numbers are starting to level off as far as participants is concerned. I want to make sure I respect your time, so I'm going to go ahead and get started with the preamble stuff, and then we can get into the material. You're listening and watching a presentation on the Clean Truck Check or CTC program. It will be an overview. We are doing several things here to try and help get as much information out as we possibly can. First and foremost, you should know that this is being recorded. There will be a link to a recorded version of this that should be emailed to you after we're done with this presentation. But if you do not get that email, just send me an email from one of the emails that you already received from us, and I'll send you the link as soon as it's available. This presentation will probably take somewhere in the neighborhood of an hour to an hour and a half. The way it normally functions is we have a very short slide deck that I'm going to go through, give you the basic information. Every one of the participants is currently muted, so you can't actually talk to us at the moment. But the way it works is during the presentation, we have a Q&A box. You can see it on your taskbar. If you need to ask a question or wish to ask a question about one of the topics that I'm going through, that is your avenue to do. We've got a couple different expert people with us today who are going to be manning the Q&A box and answering those questions as we go through. Once I'm done giving the presentation itself, I will start to open up individuals allowed to ask questions. So the way that works is that when I get to that point, if you want to ask a live question, you need to raise your hand. Use the taskbar again. There should be a raise hand function in front of you. And I will call in order of the people that raise their hands and try to unmute you so that you can ask your question of our resident expert, Anthony Gazzetta. Anthony will answer those questions and we'll keep going until we have no more questions. So that's why I said it could take anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. We have had these things go a couple of hours, but that's when we have upwards of 1,000 people. Today we're looking at close to 270 or so online. So I suspect that we should be done in an hour to an hour and a half. Anyway, let's get going. Just so you aren't here all day, we're here to talk about the Clean Truck Check overview. This is a presentation that has been given before We do this or try to do this at least once a month, and this is the last one for this year. And we're going to go over the program itself, what's involved, what it is, and what it takes to comply with. So let's go through this. First and foremost, what is this program? This is a program that was designed, first of all, it was the state legislature designated the Air Resources Board in conjunction with the Bureau of Automotive Repairs as agencies to put together a program for testing vehicles in the heavy duty category. These would be vehicles like trucks, big trucks. And you may be wondering about the fact that we already do test some vehicles, and that is true. We do have a passenger vehicle a smog inspection that is operated by the Bureau of Automotive Repair, or BAR, and has been for quite some time. Up until the CTC, or Clean Truck Check program, there was no testing requirement like this. We did have one, but it wasn't the same thing for heavy duty vehicles. Now, what is a heavy duty vehicle? This program applies to diesel and alternative fueled vehicles with a weight rating greater than 14,000 pounds, a gross vehicle weight rating, that operate on California public roads and highways. It is an emissions test that these trucks have to pass in order to be registered to legally operate on our roads. The emissions data is going to be reported in several different intervals depending on the type of vehicle you have and what it's used for. We also have roadside monitoring for high emitting vehicles, and we have verification requirements for freight contractors, seaports, and rail yards. Again, the vehicles that are regulated, you'll probably hear me say this multiple times. The vehicles that are regulated under this program are anything that is over 14,000 pounds gross vehicle weight rating that operates on other than gasoline. So anything that's non-gas, anything that operates non-gasoline. Gasoline vehicles fall under the Bureau of Automotive Repairs program. We handle everything else. Well, that question usually comes up. How do I find the gross weight of my truck? I'll go over that now, and if it comes up again later, I'll reiterate. Most trucks, you can find the gross vehicle weight rating on the driver's side door jamb on a sticker or tag that is put there by the manufacturer of the vehicle. It'll list several different weight classes typically. One of them will say gross weight or GVW or GVWR. That is what you should go with for determining whether or not this program applies to you. If it's over 14,000 and your vehicle is not running on gasoline, and you're in California operating on our public highways and roads, then yes, it applies to you. It's fairly simple to comply. There are three basic steps. In order for this program to work properly, you have to report these vehicles into a reporting system that is run and operated by the California Air Resources Board. We'll talk about this more in just a moment, but it is a requirement if you have one of these vehicles that falls into this program. There is an annual compliance fee that is per vehicle that you have operating in California. We'll talk more about that in a few moments. And then the final and perhaps the most important part of this program is submitting a passing test. These are emissions tests that you have to pass in order to have the vehicle operate safely. Here's some examples of vehicles that we are talking about here. These are regulated vehicles that fall under this program. They can be diesel, hybrid, alternative fueled vehicles, as long as they're over 14,000 pounds gross vehicle weight rating, and again, on California public roads and highways. They include things like trucks, motorhomes. Yes, I said motorhomes. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Buses and school buses, cargo vans, tow trucks, government-owned vehicles, and personal use vehicles. There aren't really very many exemptions to this program, but we can talk about some of those. There are some people that don't have to do testing as often. Again, we'll talk about those when we get to that point. Let's see. All right, so for motorhomes, I want to clear some things up. First thing is there is no ban on the use or sale of motorhomes in the state of California. We have never implemented a ban. We are not implementing a ban. We will not implement a ban. There are requirements for motorhomes that may have caused some interesting things to happen within the industry. But the motorhomes that are over 14,000 pounds operating on non-gasoline engines that are registered in California are required to be part of this program where they have to report the vehicles, the motorhomes. You have to pay the annual compliance fee per vehicle and submit passing emission tests. Again, all non-gasoline motorhomes over 14,000 pounds are included in this. It does not include those motorhomes that are registered outside the state of California and used for recreational purposes. I want to stress that recreational purposes because there are motorhomes that are registered outside the state of California that are brought in specifically for some business related purpose. And if that is the case, if that is your vehicle, then even if it's registered outside the state, it does have to be part of this program and actually do the testing and reporting. Gasoline motorhomes manufactured at 1976 or later have to participate in the smog inspection program that's run by BAR. One of the big questions we get often is what about the Sprinter type vans, those Mercedes or other brand names that are cargo type vans that have been converted to a motorhome style? It all depends upon how heavy the vehicles are. Those are going to be really close to that 14,000 pound range. There are several of them I know of and have seen that are not over 14,000 pounds. And if that's the case, they would not be part of this program. Many of those type of vehicles also operate on gasoline. And if that's the case, it doesn't matter what they weigh, they would not be part of this program. So it is in your best interest if you want to understand whether or not your Sprinter type van is part of this program to make sure that number one, you understand what fuel it's running on. That's an easy one. And number two, what is the weight class? Check that, and then you'll have the answer whether or not you have to comply with this program. Now let's get into the steps. The first step is to report the vehicles. Whatever vehicles you have that meet the conditions that I just went over. And I know it sounds like a broken record, but I want to repeat this to make sure we're all on the same page. It has to be a vehicle that runs on something other than gasoline. It's in California operating on our roads and highways, and it is over 14,000 pounds gross vehicle weight rating. First step is to get into the reporting system. The reporting system for this program is called Clean Truck Check Vehicle Inspection System, or CTC Viz. There is a link on the page that you have access to if you need to do this reporting. You're going to need to create and authenticate an account in this reporting system and enter both the information about you and the fleet and the vehicles that are part of that fleet. If you happen to have vehicles that are already in one of our other reporting systems called truckers, because we did have a reporting system for heavy duty vehicles, diesel vehicles prior to this, then it is possible to pull that same data from the truckers system into the CTC visit system and save you some time for putting in that reporting. Here's what the reporting system landing page looks like. You can see that there's a login area, a create an account area, a lookup area, helpful links. For purposes of this presentation, we want you to go to the create an account area and do that. Push that button. It's going to start asking you questions. It's going to lead you through. You're going to create a username and password and all that good stuff. And if you have questions while you're going through this, there is a link to helpful information. They call it helpful links. You're going to find FAQ sheets. You're going to find other links to videos. You'll probably even find a link to this video that can go through this, at least in a general fashion, and help you get through this process. An additional thing that I'm going to say, it is on the screen here. It says optimized for Microsoft Edge. You can get into this system using any web browser that you like. You can use Chrome, you can use Firefox, you can use whatever you have. However, this system was built and optimized to be used with Microsoft Edge. So if you have a different browser and you start having issues that are kind of weird, things don't look the same or it doesn't pop out correctly, try it in Microsoft Edge and it's likely that you'll correct some of those issues. What are the reporting requirements? Well, we need you to report, as I said earlier, your owner and fleet and vehicle information into the system. It is a fair amount of information. I know this. I've gone through it myself with several people, and I understand that it can take you a little bit to do, but it is necessary that we get that information to ensure we have the right information to apply whatever you're doing to the compliance of your fleet and vehicles. This vehicle registration system and this testing program are tied to the California DMV registration. and holds can be automatically placed on vehicles that have not gone through the reporting system and are compliant with the program. Clean truck vehicles that operate in California have to be reported or they are considered not compliant. And we do cross reference with DMV. We can get a list of all those vehicles that are over 14,000 pounds and cross reference what's in our reporting system to make sure that all those vehicles wind up in the system. If you happen to be modifying your fleet, that is either adding a vehicle or deleting a vehicle, perhaps you sold one of them you have, or you're picking up a new one for another purpose, you want to make sure that you go into CTC Viz and make those changes as soon as you possibly can. In the language of the regulation, it actually says you have 30 days. However, I will tell you that our enforcement officers that work in the field and the staff in our office that answer questions all have access to the information in this database, at least for the purposes of helping people manage their system. And when we're, especially out in the field, when they're looking at things, they're only using what's in the system. And if the system's not updated with your new information after you've changed a vehicle, then there could be some difficulties trying to get the right process involved. As I said earlier as well, there is an annual compliance fee. This was something that the state legislature imposed or implemented when they authorized this program to the Air Resources Board and BAR. It is a fee that is for each vehicle that is in CTC Viz. It's not an account fee, it's per vehicle, and it will be adjusted based on the California Consumer Price Index. The current fee as of October 2025 was $31.18 per vehicle. It originally started at $30 when we first opened this program up. And as I said, it will adjust as we go through. That can be paid via some type of credit system, e-check, and there are batch payments available if you need that. One of the things that people like to get from this reporting system is a certificate of compliance or compliance certification. This is an example on the screen for you here. All this is a piece of paper that gives you the information from the system that shows the fleet information and the vehicle information and whether the fleet as it's reported is compliant. If you need one of these papers, then the only place you can get them is from the CTC Viz reporting system. Now, why might you need one of these? Because I will tell you that the enforcement staff at ARP, we will not ask for this. You can give it to us and it'll help us look you up, but we will not ask for it because we do not use it to determine compliance. When we see a vehicle out in the field, we will generally look at what we see and verify compliance based on what that is. We will look into the system and see what's there, but a piece of paper for us is just that. People use these things to prove compliance to someone who is hiring them typically. So if you have a broker or dispatcher that is hiring your truck for service somewhere in the state of California, they may ask you for this. And if they do, again, the only way you can get it is by reporting your vehicle into the CTC Viz reporting system and reporting and the compliance fee. All that has to be done. The testing has to be done, or your fleet will not be compliant and you cannot print the certificate out. We've got some resources for the reporting system. There's a link at the top of the page. You can scan that QR code right there. It'll take you right to it where there's guidance. And as I said earlier, FAQs, training videos. There's a user guide for the reporting system itself. And there's a place for you to register for any additional upcoming training. Now, the final step, and perhaps the reason for the season, the most important step of the CTC program, is the actual testing procedure. Currently, it is a semi-annual for most vehicles that are in this system. That means twice per year. The first deadline is you need to check your CTC Viz account to ensure that you have the next upcoming deadline to provide test information. And I also would normally have told people, and I'll tell you right now, one of the deadlines is based on your DMV registration. And whatever that month is that your registration is due is one of the test dates or deadlines, the end of that month. The other deadline is 6 months from that date, from that registration date. And the reason I didn't want you to go immediately to your DMV registration is because if you have DMV registration that is in December and of this year, then your first test date should have been in, like June or July. I think it's June actually, June of 2025. So check the CTC Viz system and then determine whether or not your next date is coming in the next month or two or six, whatever it happens to be. Now, information to pass this program, the testing information, they can be submitted up to 90 days prior to that deadline. So if your deadline is in 3 months, you can submit a test today for that deadline. One of the questions that comes up regarding this is, what if I submit a failed test? Does that negatively impact me in any way? And the answer is no. I mean, it does make your vehicle not compliant because you do need a passing test. However, you could submit 100 failing tests. As long as the last test that you submit is a passing test, you're fine. You're not dinged in any way, shape, or form based on all those previous fails. We just want to ensure that before the deadline, you have a passing test. Now, I'll go over who's part of this biennial smog or semi-annual smog inspection in just a moment, but I did want to say something in addition, and that is that starting in 2027, and we do not have a date for this, but starting sometime in 2027, there are a class of vehicles that will have to go to 4 times of testing per year. Those vehicles are the ones that have onboard diagnostics, which I'll discuss again momentarily, and they will have a 4 times per testing rather than the two. If you have an account with CTC Viz, you will have a monthly summary that is sent out to you in whatever email that you have given us to send emails to. Now, what kind of emissions compliance testing vehicles don't have to do the twice testing per year? I did say that there were some that weren't going to have to do that. There are two vehicles that I can give you straight up that are only going to have to test once per year or an annual testing. Those would be vehicles that are registered and proven to be agricultural vehicles. And there's a whole definition of what that means. Essentially, it's a farmer-owned vehicle that's used in the production or harvesting of crops and transporting those crops to the first point of production. Anything beyond that type of definition is not going to be considered ag. Personal use motorhomes also are only required to test once per year. And the deadline for these type of vehicles, both of these types, is going to be based on your DMV registration. Whatever that due date is, whatever month it falls in, the last date of that month is your due date. Now, what are the testing methods? I have been talking about testing for the last few moments, and there are 2 types of tests depending on the age of the vehicle. I did mention the phrase OBD or onboard diagnostics. You don't necessarily have to remember that. I will tell you that any vehicle that has a computer system in it that is a certain age or newer is onboard diagnostics or does have onboard diagnostics. And the ages that have a standardized OBD system for diesel vehicles and diesel hybrid engines, it's going to be 2013 model year engine and newer. Little key point here, I said model year engine. You're going to want to make sure that you have the engine model year and not the vehicle model year. They are not typically the same. Your vehicle model year is almost always going to be a year after the engine. So if you have a 2013 engine, you probably have a 2014 vehicle. If you have a alternative fueled vehicle or hybrid fueled engine, anything with a 2018 or newer engine in this class of vehicle is going to have an OBD system. What am I including in alternative fueled and hybrid fuels? Definitely or generally, we're talking about compressed natural gas, CNG, or some type of propane or something other than diesel or gasoline. Let's see, a non-OBD. So it'd be the older vehicles. Any diesel or diesel engine vehicle that is 2012 and older, so 2012, 2011, 2010, so on and so forth. These vehicles did not come with OBD systems that are standardized. Some of them have OBD systems, just not standardized ones. So we cannot apply the same test. There is an existing test called an opacity test, which is also known as the J1667 SAE test. It's also known as a SNAP test or a puff test. There's a whole bunch of different names that go with it. You have to perform that test. Essentially, what that is somebody with the proper device is going to put the meter sensor in the stack of the vehicle and ask the owner or somebody in the vehicle to, while the vehicle's in park or neutral, push the gas 3 times and get a reading. And whatever that reading is going to be your opacity. Has to be below a certain extent in order to pass that test. So you have to comply with that. And then in addition, there is a visual inspection of all the emission control equipment that has to be done on these older vehicles as well. I know mostly everybody in this audience has at some point or another been to a smog test shop where you've taken your passenger vehicle in. If you've watched what they do, they put a probe in the exhaust and they're measuring exhaust and they're using a machine to do that. But at the same time, they take a clipboard around with a piece of paper on it and they're making check marks after they look at things. What they're doing is a visual inspection. They're verifying that the emissions control equipment that was supposed to be on that engine from the factory is actually still there and appears to be functioning. If they can see all that, then the visual inspection is a pass. If they find something that's disconnected or missing that's supposed to be there, then even if it passes the emissions component, it's going to fail the inspection overall. For 2017 and older alternative fueled vehicle engines, these vehicles do not have an opacity test equivalent, so they're not required to do that type of test. They do need a visual inspection to pass the CTC program test. All right, well, I keep talking about tests, but who does the testing? Not just anybody. The only people that can perform these tests and submit the information are individuals that are known as CTC credentialed testers. These testers have gone through a CARB certified testing program online, video driven. Anybody can do it. It's free. You just have to go through a series of, I believe it's 6 different videos, and you'll be tired of my voice by the end because I did a number of the videos for this program. And you're going to have a test at the end where you have to pass with an 80% or better in order to certify yourself or credential yourself. Once you are credentialed, you have that credential for 2 years, and then you have to renew it every 2 years. The only only tester, sorry, that does not need to go through this CARB approved service for the training is called an OBD telematics device. Now, some of your trucks already probably have these. Typically, this is a company that you hire to monitor things that your truck is doing. Basically, how many hours of service you have, when it's on, when it's off. These are all things that need to be reported to the DOT in order for you to maintain that component of your registration. And there are some of those telematics service providers that will actually provide the same type of service for our program. They have to be certified by ARB in order to do this, but you might want to check with the telematic service provider that you have, if you have one, and see if they can also provide you with this. The advantage to the telematic service provider, I'm not telling you to go one way or the other, but the advantage to using one of those type of systems is it happens automatically, it happens in the background, and it doesn't require you to do anything because the service provider is monitoring your vehicle and reporting the data for you. And it only works with OBD trucks because we're just looking for a file download in that case. Where do you find a tester? Well, most of you are probably going to get online and try and do some kind of search, but I would suggest that you go to this website first. This is a website that is at ARB's, it's one of our websites. It's called Find a CTC Tester, and it's one that was created. What we do is when somebody certifies as a tester, we ask them whether or not they want to be visible, their name and contact information be visible to people searching for testers. And if they say yes to that, we put them in this database and it's searchable based on zip code, city, state, that kind of thing. You can find all the testers in your particular area. One note of caution I would give you is that you can refine this search pretty well, but if you put in just a single zip code or a single city, the database is going to give you a list that only exists in that city or zip code. It's not going to give you a list of anything around that city or zip code. So you might have to do searches if you have a concentrated area with lots of zip codes or lots of cities. You may have to do additional searches to determine if there's somebody within the area, not just in that particular zip code or city. All right, so the testing devices. We've talked about the testers and the credentialing of those testers, but there also is a requirement that these testers use certified testing devices. Only CARB certified testing devices can be used for these compliance tests. We have a list of those testing devices on this website. You can click to it and find out whether or not the person who's saying they can do your test actually is using the correct testing device. And you can find out information if you are in the market to purchase one of these to become a tester. We'll give you the links of the ones that have been certified. I should back up 1 second because I did miss something. We've had questions from people who are trying to find testers and hiring testers and maybe are hiring unscrupulous people and not getting what they're paying for. And it's in your best interest to do your due diligence to check. One of the purposes of this database that we've created is that if somebody is wanting to be hired by you, you have the ability to check to see if they're actually in that database. Ask them for their certificate, basically, that says that they've been credentialed within the last 2 years. Because if they did go through the credentialing program and it was more than 2 years ago, then they're not technically certified. Just do your best to make sure that they are currently certified and using the correct device. Earlier in this presentation, I did tell you also that the ARB has something called roadside inspections. I mentioned ARB inspectors. Well, we do a couple different type of inspections. One involves actual people, men and women, who are using a CTC testing device and performing these tests on vehicles that go through our inspection stations or inspection roadside areas. And the other is a remote emissions monitoring device. In the picture on the screen, you can see that upside down L with the cross beam and a little wire holding it up. That's actually a hollow tube with holes on it that as a truck passes underneath it, there's a fan that draws some of the exhaust gases from the vehicle into that tube, and it performs an analysis that is done within 30 seconds. And we can tell using that analysis whether or not a vehicle is a possible high emitter. These will be manned in some places and they will be unmanned in other places. If you happen to go through an unmanned one, and your vehicle is determined to be a possible high emitter, you will get something called a notice to submit to testing, or NST. This is just a letter to whoever the registered owner of that vehicle is, which it's not a citation, it's not a penalty, it's a call to go get more testing. It's a call to get verification that your vehicle is in compliance. So if you do get these, you have 30 days from the notice, the date on the notice, to go to a credentialed tester and get that test done and submitted. If you don't do that within 30 days, it's possible your fleet would be out of compliance, your vehicle would be out of compliance, and if you wait long enough, it is possible the enforcement division will send citations and put DMV reg holds on those vehicles. No matter which direction you go, whether it is a testing service or you test yourself or you hire a different credential tester, it is in your interest and in the tester's interest to provide accurate information. It's your responsibility, in fact, to submit true and accurate tests. We have and we will continue to revoke any tester's credential, including those within any associated entities within the state, for violating any provision of the Clean Truck Check HGI&M program regulation. And submitting accurate data or false data is actually is a citationable event, but you'll also lose your tester's credential if that happens to be the case. All right. And finally, I wanted to leave you with the presentation here with some resources. If you haven't already looked at our web pages, and I haven't made it clear that that's where a lot of our information is for you, besides the video and the presentation we're giving today, these links are probably the best place for you to get additional information and more complete information. There's no way I can give you every instance of everything that's on our websites. There's just too much there, but it is available for you to look at. So I've given you links to the homepage for this program, links for the list of smoke meter manufacturers. That would be for the snap test or the smoke test I was talking about. and also a list for the credentialed tester training or a link to that. So at this point, we're done with the presentation. I'm going to bring up the participant list. Let's see. And if anybody, okay, so we've got Sammy Singh. Sammy, Anthony Gazzetta, are you ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay, so Sammy Singh uh, is allowed to talk. Sammy, you need to unmute on your end and ask your question, please.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to know about the CTC and the TRUCR. Do you need to be on both of those account for the trucks, each vehicle, or just one only is required?
So for clean truck check, all that's required is like the actual truck itself. TRUs are run by a different division within CARB. I believe it's the ARB Equipment Registration Program. So you would need to go to them for any questions relating to TRU. If you don't already have their email, I'd be happy to provide it in the chat.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I'm
And to
just
answer the question as well, though, Sammy,
I'm
I
concerned.
believe you do need to be in both of those if you have
Yeah.
the devices.
Yeah, so the TRU would be over with we call it Arbor, and the actual truck would be over in Clean Truck Check.
Got it. Okay. All right.
Okay, I'm going to mute you now, Sammy. And Carrie Facili, you need to unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Absolutely.
So, I wonder if you can talk about the Clean Truck Check referee inspection program. We just received a notice of that, so I'm not sure what we need to do to go about that.
Yeah, go ahead and email HDIM, the email address there, and we'll send you some information on how to proceed.
Okay, thank you.
So, Anthony, do you just offhand, do you want to say what that program is? Because I didn't talk about it at
Yeah,
all.
yeah. So the referee program is a program that has been set up to identify potential issues with vehicles. And if you receive one of these notices, your vehicle has been identified as a vehicle that does need to be seen by the referee and evaluated by them. Referee requests are now made in CTC Viz. I don't want to provide too much information just because it could be pretty confusing verbally. So if anybody has any questions about referee, go ahead and email those to HDIM.
Okay, I currently don't have any more raised hands, so if anybody is looking to ask a question live, go ahead and, oh, there we go. Let me get to, all right, Deanna Garcia, please unmute yourself.
Hi, I have a 2013 Hino that I do not take out of California. I only have one truck, and I get the clean air test done on my vehicle, and I receive the emails stating, that my truck is in compliant. Um, is there anything else I need to do? Listening to this call, I wasn't sure if I'm already compliant with what I'm doing or if there's more that I need to do to stay compliant.
Anthony. So Anthony might have had to go off here. So Deanna, I think I can help you somewhat with that. If you have already gone through the CTC Viz program and you've already performed the test and the CTC Viz account shows your Hino as compliant, then for at least the next 6 months, you don't have another, you don't have anything else you need to do.
Okay, wonderful. I wasn't sure. It sounded like there was a new test that I needed to start getting done.
Well, I believe what's the age of the Hino that you have?
The 13?
Yeah, so the truck is a 13, the engine is probably a 12. Is that correct?
I don't know that for sure.
You're going to
Could
want to
be.
check. Yeah, because if it's a 12, then it does not have the OBD equipment necessary to have the OBD type test. So you would have to have the smoke test and the visual inspection performed on that vehicle. And if that's the case, that's a completely different kind of test than the OBD one. It's a little bit more complicated. It involves a little bit more, and it still has to be done twice per year.
Okay, so then I just go to the same people who are already doing my test and let them know I now need a smoke test.
Well, first of all, they should already know this.
Oh, okay.
If they are
Well,
credentialed testers, they will legally are required to know this.
I
So,
just got my test done 2 weeks ago.
okay. Do you
I
remember
passed.
you passed? Okay. Can you see it in your account?
Yes.
Okay, then you're good because your tester did the correct test and submitted it to the CTC Viz. So you're good for the next 6 months.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, thank you so much.
No problem. All right, let me mute you there and go to the next one. Let's see. Kevin Fairweather, can you unmute yourself, please?
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Kevin.
If we have a truck that has a test due date in 2 weeks from now,
Okay.
and we test the truck, and let's say the test shows that it failed,
Okay.
is it still 30 days to retest, or does that move up to, you still got to get it done within the 2 weeks? How does the system remedy that?
There's no 30-day. The 30-day thing you're talking about there is associated with the smog check program in the Bureau of Automotive Repair. You can test as many times as you want in any given day. I wouldn't do it unless I figured out what the problem was, though. So you need to have it repaired before you do another test.
Right. So from the time that you fail a test, what's the expectation to get it back into the shop and test it again?
You should, well, there is no expectation. It just has to be done or completed by the due date that the CTC Viz system is saying your vehicle has. So if your due date is in 2 weeks, the expectation is that you'll get it in the shop repaired and tested before that due date. If you have a problem with that time frame, and I understand sometimes that's not possible with going to shops and getting that kind of turnaround time, then you're going to need to contact the HDI&M at arb.ci.gov and work with those people in order to get that time frame worked out.
Okay, so the test due date is a passing test due date. Someone can't say, I did test it before the due date.
Yeah,
It's not my fault that it didn't pass. They
yeah,
can't.
no,
Okay.
yeah, that's the. I'm sorry if I misunderstood that, but that test due date is absolutely when it needs to have a passing test.
Okay. Thanks, Randy.
No problem. All right, I'm gonna mute you now. Let's see. Carla Lang. Uh, let's see. Can you unmute yourself, or is it letting you do this? Carla?
Hello, can you hear me yet?
I can hear you now.
Awesome. I have two quick questions. I'm really sorry.
No worries.
The first one is the tester your website automatically uploads to the DMV, but my question is if DMV already has a hold on my vehicle and once I pass all of these compliances, will you automatically send that to the DMV or do I need to now go into the DMV?
So you're absolutely correct. Our data, it's not automatic. We do send files to DMV on a daily basis. So everything that happens within CTC Viz is transmitted to DMV at the end of the day. So if you tested today, DMV is going to get the information tonight or tomorrow morning, and however long their process to act upon it is, that's something we can't control. We don't have any control over their process. So they have the information as soon as you put it in CTC Viz within a 24 to 48 hour period. Um, Beyond that, your DMV is the next step for you. If you've got it in our system as compliant, they will have that information that it's compliant, and whatever their process is what you have to deal with through
Excellent.
them. Yeah.
Excellent. And then really quickly also, does this apply to emergency use vehicles only?
Emergency vehicles are exempt from the CTC Viz requirement.
Okay. And
So
how do
if
I
you,
go about getting an exemption?
what kind of vehicle are we talking about?
It's a water tender that's used specifically only for firefighting. nothing else.
Yeah, so that's something you're going to have to work within the reporting system to have identified because that truck does not look like an emergency vehicle to us at all. So email hdim@arb.ca.gov, and the staff there, they answer the emails usually on a daily basis. They can work with you to try and get it reported properly so it's showing up as an emergency vehicle.
Okay, do you have a phone number you could supply me with possibly?
Unfortunately, the only way you can contact them is through that email.
Okay, HDIM, one more time, that was kind of
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah, no, it's hdim@arb.ca.gov.
Oh, perfect. Okay, thank you. I'm listed in truckers as emergency only, so I'll sign up, see what I have to do, and then I'll give them an email.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Oh, no problem, Carla. All right. Carrie Garcia, can you please unmute?
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes, fantastic.
I have 3 questions.
All right.
Trucks that are already submitted to CTC and have been tested but no longer meet the weight requirements, they no longer are 14,000 pounds. Do we just remove them from CTC?
So I have a quick question. How did you get them to no longer meet that? Because you
The
don't,
bed was removed.
the factory modified them?
Well, not the factory. The customer removed the bed.
Okay, that doesn't change the gross weight. The gross weight is something that's assigned by the manufacturer, and the only person that can actually change that gross weight is the manufacturer or a truck builder. Taking a bed off of a truck does not change the gross weight.
Okay, so we would have, so for example, it's a Ford 550.
Okay.
They changed, they replaced the engine, but removed the bed. So he will have to go to the dealer that replaced the engine and removed the bed to get a new weight sticker. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
the manufacturer has to be the one that does that. You can't just take something off a truck and say that you've changed the weight because that's something that's assigned by a manufacturer.
Okay, so they just have to go to the dealer. Got it.
Yeah.
Plug-in power commanders. These are considered emission modifications?
I am not familiar with what that is, to be honest.
Okay, I'm sorry. I emailed these to,
HDIM?
no, I believe it was you, Randy.
Yeah, I'm Randy.
Yeah, I emailed these prior, but
So this is a question. I apologize, Carrie.
okay.
I've been working on trying to just get this thing going, but this is going to be an email I will forward to HDINM@arb.ca.gov so that they can research that and know exactly what the answer is for you. I personally don't know what that device is.
Okay.
Was there another question that I might be able to help you with?
Yes, trucks that are placed on non-op.
Okay.
We have a customer that bought a truck, but it's brand new.
Okay.
He's not using it, so he non-opted it. It does need to be registered in CTC, is that correct?
Yes.
Does it need to be tested though?
There at least there used to be a way that a vehicle that was non-opt could be not required to test until it's put in operation. That again is something that you're going to have to work out with the staff at the CTC Viz section. So it's going to be through the same type of email system.
Okay, so okay.
Yeah, I can't change that for you right now, and I can't tell you that he doesn't have to test it. It has to come from them.
Okay. And then there's no leeway for failed tests. It used to be 90 days. Is that not the case anymore?
Well, there's no time restriction as far as how long you have to wait to do another retest. We had somebody on just a second ago was asking a similar question.
Right.
You can test as many times as you want. And there's no time limit. The 90-day window is before your test date is due. So you can test as many times as you want in that window.
Right. So if the truck is still being repaired and
Yeah.
it is now past the date.
Yeah, same answer I gave them before it gets to the due date. You're going to want to, again, I'm sorry
Submit
it's a
the paper.
broken. You're going to have to email the HDIM group
Okay.
and they will be able to work with you on extending that timeline.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. All right. Is that it, Carrie? All right. Thanks. Okay. So the next one we have here is Christopher Silva. Christopher, can you unmute on your end?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. Fantastic.
Okay, my question is for the training in order to become a tester.
Sure.
In order to register, we would have to go through the Carb website, right? And then from there, take the exam and take the courses.
Yes.
Okay.
There's the link. I showed you the start page. There's
Yes.
a link to the testing, the credential tester page, which enters you in, and you start the process there.
Okay, so I have four trucks in my fleet.
Okay.
And I would be able to test them myself without having to get a third party involved, right?
That is absolutely correct. You do have to be credentialed. You already know that part. And you
Yes.
do have to use a certified testing device. And that's another whole process, which we have links for that as well.
Okay. And roughly, do you know how long the training takes? Yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to take 2 to 3 hours. It's 6 videos. And you don't actually have to be in the test to watch the videos. They are available to watch outside, so you could do some pre-work if you wanted to.
Mhm.
And then once you register and sign up to be a credentialed tester, you have to watch each video. You don't have to watch them in sequence. You don't have to watch them all at the same time, but you have to watch them and then at the end answer the questions that the test.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No problem. Is that it, Christopher?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to go to the next person then. Let's see. Let me do something here. Lower hand. Lower hand. Okay, so we have Tommy Barcelo. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Hello.
Hey, Tommy.
Hey, Randy. So I have a question. I'm a mobile tester.
Okay.
I've been doing this for a long time. Back when it was called the PSIP inspection program.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, I have a customer of mine. He has about roughly about 60 trucks, and they're all basically the same. They're Isuzus 14, 15s with the NPR engines.
Mm-hmm.
He has one truck out of his whole fleet that the DMV is giving him problems. we already talked to the HDMI or IM email. What's happening is on the actual registration, it tells him he needs a smog check.
Okay.
This is not part of the smog check; it's a clean truck check.
Okay.
He's gone to DMV numerous times, and they have told him is the test that he did does not have a bar number, and throws it back at him. We called or we emailed CARB. CARB said that the DMV is incorrect, but the DMV is telling him that they're incorrect. What do we do here?
Yeah. In that case, sorry for stepping away. I had a sick dog to take care of. So in that case, that is an issue we see. It's not super common, but it does happen. From my understanding, it does seem to be an issue on DMV's side. I don't know what it is, and I don't want to get too far into it. But the bottom line is, so for that, have him email HDIM, explain the situation, and then if you want, he can put attention Tony G in the subject line, and that'll come directly to me.
Tony G? Okay.
Yeah, and then what we do from there is we reach out to our DMV contact. They clear it on their side, and then we let you guys know when it's cleared. It sometimes takes a business day or two for that to change. But when that does happen, we get confirmation from DMV that they've made the appropriate change. And then we typically recommend contacting DMV within 1 or 2 business days to see if their records have been updated.
Yeah, because I've tested this truck. I tested him back in July and it failed, and then I tested it in August and he passed.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been going back and forth with the DMV since then.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you don't need a test. Your test is done.
Yeah.
You know, I have access to its portal, and I show him that it is it is done, but it's the DMV that's not correct on the situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Yeah, again, just have him email us, and again, he can put my name in the subject line if he wants. I actually have a couple cases that I'm dealing with on this right now currently. Again, usually it's cleared in DMVs or by DMV that day when we email them, but it does sometimes take a little time to update in their system.
Okay, and I got one more question, Randy. Is that okay?
Yep, go ahead.
I ran into a situation where a customer, one of my big fleets, has yard goats. Yard goat never goes on the road. It just stays on the yard. Obviously, it has no plate. No tags or nothing. It doesn't go anywhere. What happens on that situation?
Do you know if they have operational registration with DMV?
I do not know that. I have to find that out.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that would definitely be something good to find out on that front.
Operational, okay. Operational. Okay, I'll find that out.
Mhm.
Thank you.
You're
All
welcome.
right, thanks, Tommy. Let me mute him, and we'll go to, let's see, Tim Beatty. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Yes, hello.
Randy,
Yes.
do you see the black box on the screen?
Yeah, it's been there for a little bit.
Black box. Oh, okay, sorry. Can you see it now?
It's moving.
I guess I had this one of the question boxes over the wrong part. Can you see the slide now?
Maybe just move it over to the left side. You can cover up the truck. That's fine.
I see. Well, it's not letting me do it. Okay, I'll close this one then. All right. We should go to Tim Beatty. Tim, did you unmute yourself?
Yeah, you got me?
Yeah, go ahead and ask your question.
So there's a lot of federal regulations versus state regulations on how are we going to be notified if any of these federal rollbacks are going to affect the state stuff?
So at this time, any federal rollbacks will not affect Clean Truck Check since it is a California state legislature implemented program. The only one, the major one that I'm sure a lot of you have heard about that's been affected by federal is ACF. Clean Truck Check has separate, doesn't necessarily need federal approval.
So there's no executive orders or anything like that?
Nothing rolling back Clean Truck Check at this time.
Okay, if something were to come up on that front, fed versus state, I'm assuming you guys would put something out?
Yeah, that would be the plan. But again, at this time, there's no inkling of anything like that with Clean Truck Check.
Okay. That was my only question, just how we would be notified if anything
Yeah, oh yeah,
changes.
yeah, we would certainly put some information out regarding it if anything like that were to happen.
Okay. That's all I had.
All right. Thank you, Tim. We're going to go to Oksana Chernik. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Yes, hello.
There you go.
My question is about the test due dates on the site. Do we just assume that those are accurate? Because I have some that are 7 months after the last test submitted. Some are 6, some are a year, and none of my vehicles are anything special. They're just all, need to be on the program. Because I have one, for example, that I did March of 2025, and it says the next test due date is March of 2026.
You can go ahead and email us about those specific cases, and we'll look into them on the back end of things.
Okay. The ones that are also not, so basically anything that's not 6 months, I should email about.
Anything over 6 months that's not marked as an agricultural vehicle or motorhome vehicle. I know you said that not motorhome vehicle, just motorhome. I know you said that none of your vehicles were special cases like that. So yeah, anything more than 6 months from the previous test due date. Now, if you do test vehicles like say a month before their due date, the next test due date would show as 7 months, or it would show 6 months from the previous due date. If that makes sense.
Okay. Okay, well then, okay. That doesn't
Yeah.
make sense. Like if you submit before the 90-day, it'll go from. I see.
No, so you do have to submit within the 90-day.
Right,
Uh,
right.
But yeah, so say you have a vehicle that's got a test due in January of 1 year, and you submit the test in December, then that'll go from the end of January to the end of July. If you're talking about it going from the end of January to like the end of August or September or something, then that's something, yeah, we'll look into.
I see, makes sense. Okay, how about the ones that don't show a test due date at all? Is that just delayed or?
Yeah, there's some issues with that. Usually they populate within about a month after the previous test due date. That is something we're working to address. But it will always populate at the very least, within that 90-day window, and usually when that 90-day window hits. So in those cases, you may just want to make, careful note of like when the previous test due date was, and you can also kind of base the twice a year due dates on the fee due date, if that makes sense. So if the fee due date's showing in your account, you should be able to just either add or subtract 6 months from that fee due date, and that would be the intermittent test due date.
Got it. Okay, I'll just email you about the one that's shown up a year. The rest should be fine.
Okay. You're welcome.
Thank you, Oksana. All right, next we have Manuel Reboledo.
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
All right, question for you on, have a pretty large fleet, and we do have some like geotabs on some of our units, but some of them don't. Can we submit still like a mixed report, like some will get reported by geotab and some will have to get it done by a tester?
Yeah, that's totally fine. Yeah, that's not an issue.
All right, also it's like, we're in a government fleet and you said, some of this testing is due before like the expiration of the registration, but all our registrations say they expire in 12/31/2099.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for it sounds like those are SE plated vehicles, is that correct?
Yeah, the exempt plates, yes.
Yeah, exempt, yeah. Yeah, so in that case, all vehicles that are either SE plated or exempt, they do have an official annual registration renewal date with DMV of 12/31. So you would just need to follow the dates shown in your account, basically, for those in the test details section.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Manuel. All right, next up we have Edmund Lowe. Can you unmute yourself, Edmund? Edmund, can you unmute yourself?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you.
I got a question. I did a smoke check on my truck back on the 10th of December. And when I go online, try to look at the certificate, it still shows expired on the 11/31/2025.
Okay, yeah. So I'm assuming you did this test, what would it be, about a week ago?
10 days, yeah, about a week or so.
So in that case, assuming the compliance fee requirement has been met too, what you'll want to do is click on the VIN in your account and scroll down to the certificate section.
I did, and it still showed the same thing.
It does? Okay, go ahead and email us about that and we can look into it. There are sometimes issues with the certificates being issued. You don't have like an e-check-in process or anything?
No.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and
Everything's
email
been paid
us.
for. Like, I passed all the tests and I have other trucks in my fleet, and all of them shows updated except for this particular one that was done like a week ago.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and email us and include the VIN, and then we can look into it for you.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Edmund. All right, next would be Ryan King. Ryan, can you unmute yourself?
thanks.
Please? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for taking my question. Couple questions for you guys, and I'm working through emailed HDIM and working through a few of these, but I'm hoping to get some insight. Recently, a couple of our units that are well older than 2013, when our testers, we have a pretty large fleet, trying to submit a snap test, it comes back and says that it needs to be an OBD2. I email, the engine family number, all the photos, and they get fixed on your end, but we're getting more of these units now. and I'm trying to prevent this from even happening to see if we can get some insight on if we're doing something wrong. I heard possibly our guys could be trying to submit an OBD2 before the snap, and then it diverts back to that. Talk to our testers. They have not been doing that. These are testers that have been doing it since the beginning of your program. So maybe some insight.
Are any of the vehicles outfitted with telematics?
Yes, they're outfitted
That's-
with geotab and all sorts of fun stuff.
Okay, that's probably the issue. So in that case, what you might want to do is contact Geotab. So put together a list of all your vehicles that shouldn't be non-OBD tested. Contact Geotab and basically just ask them to turn off the information submission to CARB on that front, because that will cause the same issue as if a tester was to try to OBD test a non-OBD vehicle. We probably will have to manually fix all of those. Unfortunately, we're working on patches to fix that, but you know, it's kind of a complicated process on our end because the system just automatically blocks it right away.
Gotcha.
Once we go in and override it again, that override should stay in place even if an OBD test is attempted in the future again. So yeah, contact Geotab again. Just put together a list of all those VINs. Turn off the CARB submission aspect. Everything else, as far as I know, you should be able to keep it running in terms of, you know, tracking where the vehicles are and things like that. But yeah, have them turn off the CARB data submission aspect. And then if you can identify all the VINs that may have this issue in the future, we could maybe just go in and do like one big fix at one time for these vehicles so that they don't encounter it moving down or moving on.
All right, that's awesome. I appreciate that insight. I just kept getting the fix around, but now that I know that may be much better. So thank you.
Oh yeah, it's definitely annoying. Trust me. It's we get a lot of feedback on that, and we're the ones that have to go and fix them. So yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Two more questions. The easy one is going to be: we got new units showing up, and as soon as they show up, I'm entering them into the system. They show as non-compliant right away, and they may sit in our yard for 8 months getting upfitted. Can I wait to put those in the program until they're actually out on the road?
Okay, so I would go ahead and email us about those units. We kind of have a different process for those, you know, because we've dealt with this with outfits like PG&E or SMUD. So we do have a bit of a different process for those. So go ahead and email us about those, and then we will give you the information that you'd need to provide. And basically, you know, when to report them and everything and how to go about dealing with that.
Okay, thank you very much. And one last question. Through the portal, when I go in and I sort, because we have over 230 vehicles, when I go in and sort through vehicles under certificate, completion certificate expiration date, and I do before or equal to the end of the month, and I go under test details and do the same thing with the same sort field, I'm getting two different numbers. Which one am I supposed to be following?
So have any of these vehicles been, so I'm assuming you're sorting by like November 30th potentially. And then in test details, is it saying May 30th of next year?
I'm still sorting through November 30th, you know, equal to or before equal to the last day of the month.
Okay. No, I'm assuming all the vehicles show as compliant. So what I think may be happening is some of these vehicles were tested before the current certificate expiration date. And then what you're seeing in the test details section is it's showing that's when the next test is due because you've already submitted one for this compliance cycle. And one thing to keep in mind is in the certificate section of your account, or no, sorry, not the certificate section, the vehicle list, the certificate that will currently always show and be available to view or download there is the current one. And so it's also going to always display the current certificate's expiration date. So that's why you may be having some mismatched dates there. Because if you meet compliance requirements before the current certificate expiration date, that's still going to be the one that shows there just because it's the most current one.
Gotcha. Okay, awesome. I appreciate you guys' time.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. All right. So the next person we have here is Hiram Quintero. Hiram, can you unmute yourself, please? Hold on a second. Why is it doing that? There you go. Can you unmute yourself, please, Hiram?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I have a question. So I'm a service provider, credential tester, and I serve a lot of independent drivers and small companies. And many of them, they're not educated about the portal and how to register their companies and pay the fees and all that. So I cannot provide that kind of service to them like a broker, getting all these clients registered into the portal. But is there an easier way, or is there an account that can be open for me as a service provider for all these small companies without me having their credential and logins and all that? Because some of these companies, or they just call me remotely and they say, well, I need all your information so I can, register your company into the state. And some of them, they're skeptical about releasing all this information. So, like any other agency, federal agency, DOT and all that, when we provide this kind of service, we got like a broker account. Is there is there in their thoughts about making an account for brokers so we can help customers?
There's not necessarily at this point. Typically what we recommend is, if testers want to do this and their clients are okay with it, testers can set up accounts and, report and register all the vehicles and things. The only issue that you might run into there is, you've got a bunch of different vehicles from different fleets, different companies, different owners in there, and they won't be getting the monthly summary email. So for a situation like this, I would recommend sending anybody who you get calls from that are concerned about potentially releasing this information, send them the link that I just put in the chat. It's our reporting resources link, which basically gives there's a bunch of videos on there about how to use the reporting system. There is a step-by-step user guide as well, and our email is included at the bottom of that page. So if they do have any questions, we can help them walk through the account creation process if they're concerned about, giving away proprietary information or anything like that.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Hiram.
Thank you.
All right. So we have let's see. Oh, dang it. Okay. Tommy Barcelo.
Yeah, I was gonna hop out that guy, the last caller. What I found is a lot of my longtime customers, they actually put me as an admin under their account, so I can go in there and make a list for them, and so they're not worried about they're coming and falling behind. Unfortunately, when I had done that, I get a lot of emails regarding trucks and stuff, but they send me up as an admin, so I can go in there and make up a list, tell them, hey, you guys have trucks that are due on your fees. It helps them out a lot.
Yeah, you can do that as well. In those cases, you would want to make sure that those customers have the entity account type selected instead of individual. If they do have an individual account, they will not be able to add another user to the account. So
you are correct. Yeah, you are correct.
Yeah, so that would be the best route to go ahead and do that. And that is, obviously up to each and every company. It's kind of a business decision to do that. So, yeah, but if they do want to do that, they need an entity account type.
Yeah, it can definitely take us some time as I've gotten more, I got more users. Yeah, it does take some time when I got these large fleets and stuff, but it also does help them out.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, thank you, Tommy. All right, so we don't have any more hands raised at the moment. Let me see here. I can't do it that way. If I bring up both the participant list and the Q&A, it starts blocking part of the screen. So Anthony, can you look at those questions and see if there's anything on there that you need to answer?
Yeah, there's one that's being answered now. It looks like we do have a hand raised currently.
Okay, there we go. All right. Lisa Cross Robinson, can you unmute yourself, please?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. My question is, when we have OVI, the opacity and visual inspection tests, do they take longer to get registered in the system as far as a passing test? Once my tester sends them in?
So, I mean, they can take a little bit longer than OBD tests, just because the system does have to run like a manual check on everything,
Right.
if that
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Usually, as long as it should be within, I'd say about an hour or so of when your tester does submit the test results, assuming everything has passed and it's good on the visual inspection form and everything. But yeah, it can sometimes take a little bit longer than the OBD tests.
Okay, we were just wondering because it took quite a while one of our tests said test results could not be determined. And then the next test he sent in, it took 3 or 4 days before we had a passing test. But I have to tell you, you guys have done an incredible job with all of the databases and the test details and everything, because it's really made it easy in so many ways for us and our company. So I just wanted to give you guys kudos for how things are running now.
Yeah, we very much appreciate that. That's usually not the sort of feedback we get about the system. So we appreciate that.
Well, you got plenty of emails from me for a while
Oh, yeah.
about
Yeah.
trucks. So, but I wanted to let you guys know it's excellent. It's working now and it's really smooth once you get the hang of all of it,
Yeah, and we're hoping to make it smoother down the road as the periodic updates come into effect and everything. So
yeah, great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank
you, Lisa. All right, so Joanne Bulkelman.
I have 4 older CNG vehicles that were purchased new as CNG vehicles, but the registration with the DMV has them wrong. 2 of them say diesel, 2 of them say just gas. I changed one, and it was a super long process trying to get that fixed, with the submitting lots of pictures and so forth. Now I've found these other 3. What is the easiest way to get this problem fixed? So I'm not able to submit a test until
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't want to say this, but it would be going to DMV because that is the validation that the system runs off of is the DMV information.
Okay.
So if you can, I'll put in the chat right now the DMV field office support unit phone number. Give me 1 second. And if you contact them, it might be a little bit smoother instead of having to go wait in line at the DMV or anything like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something that they need to do in person or not necessarily. But at least if you give them a call beforehand and say, hey, I have these 3 vehicles with this issue, maybe there's something else that they can do to make the process a little easier for you.
Okay. So one I did get fixed. A second one, I fixed it with DMV, but it has not come over to your site as the right. It still shows up as diesel. So when I contacted let's see, I contacted your site, thecarbtest.org is who answered me. They said to go through the referee, but the referee to make an appointment requests all types of information and pictures and everything else before I can even talk to somebody. Is there a way I can bypass that whole process since I
Yeah,
have
so
changed it with DMV?
in that case, you should just be able to change the fuel type in CTC Viz if it's corrected with DMV.
It doesn't let us change it. It's permanently in there as diesel. It's not in the past we could pick our own, but now it just says diesel. I'm not able to change it.
Okay, yeah, you can go ahead and shoot us an email about that. As far as I know, if the information lines up with DMV, based on my experience with the system, you should be able to go in and change that without issue. And I mean, I've even seen vehicles that are reported as CNG, but when the tester goes to submit the test, it doesn't let them enter CNG in the system because it's pulling the DMV data. Whereas on the reporting side, the CNG was manually entered, and that's going to override on that side. So yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
we used to be able to override it, and now we can't.
Yeah.
And in the last vehicle, someone had to go in there and search through the DMV records and pull it.
Yeah.
It wasn't an automatic change.
Yeah, go ahead and email us with that. And
Okay.
we usually, just verify the DMV records real quick, and yeah, it shouldn't really be
Perfect.
that big of an issue.
Okay, is that the HDIM@arb.ca.gov? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, I will do that.
All righty.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Joanne. All right, Bruce Balfour, can you unmute yourself, please?
Yep. Hey, quick question. Hi, Randy. Hey, we are on the tester side of things, and we're a little confused on a non-OBD2 testing when we're using our opacity meters, and there is a check engine light on. When we go fill out the form, and there's nothing, the online form where we upload our tests and all this stuff, there's nothing in there that says if it fails or passes if a check engine light is on. Back in the old days, a check engine light was an automatic fail. How does it sit with the new HDIM test?
Yeah, so with these tests, obviously, the biggest issue is making sure all the components are present, the ECL, and, present and functioning properly. And as long as the smoke opacity percentage is clear, or, on a alt fuel vehicle, as long as the visual inspection checks out, then yeah, the vehicle passes, because obviously whatever issue is causing that is not, impacting the emissions in a major manner. Now, if you do have a vehicle with a check engine light on that's got a 5% opacity limit and it's blowing, 15, 20%, then yeah, that's something that really needs to be addressed. But if the vehicle's, passing in terms of the smoke opacity and visual inspection, if the check engine light is on, then obviously it's not impacting the vehicle performance and the performance of the emissions equipment.
All right. No, you've answered that perfectly. Yeah. Half of us say one thing, the other half say the other, my management team. And it's like, yeah, since there's no place on the drop down menus to say check engine lights on, we've been passing them when the check engine lights on. Of course, if everything's there, and of course, if we have 5% or less opacity. But yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Another quick question. We do a lot of school buses, and a lot of them are retrofitted, and some of the tags, and we have not been passing them, but some of the tags are missing on the buses. And if they're aftermarket manufacturers like a Donaldson or there's so many manufacturers that don't support the aftermarket, we can't order tags for them anymore. Is that bus have to be retired even though everything is there, everything's working properly that we can see? It's the smoke opacity test is good, but because that tag is missing, and of course, when we would install these units, they were all inspected by CHP. We did them all by CHP guidelines. We had to have a CHP, installation manual and book. We did it all under the eyes of CHP and CARB because it was legal at the time. But because a technician down the road unbolted a tag and the tag is missing, does that mean, and I cannot order a tag, does that mean the bus has to be retired?
Not necessarily. I would go ahead and email us and just kind of outline that concern pretty clearly.
Okay.
And then I'll discuss it with some of my colleagues. It sounds like it may be a potential referee referral situation.
Okay.
Because we do run into these similar issues with emission control labels. I know Ford's a pretty big culprit of that. I don't think they issue anything past 10 years old. And so, yeah, that would be something we would discuss internally and potentially work with referee and enforcement on.
Thank you. You've answered my questions. Perfect.
Yeah. Thank you, Bruce. All right. So we don't have any raised hands at the moment. Are there any questions, Anthony, in the Q&A?
There's 5.
Chris, we do have a raised hand, so let me get to that.
Okay.
Chris Haleva. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we don't have a fleet account because we're all power only, completely owner operator based. So all of the drivers own their own trucks and equipment. So, you know, they're reporting themselves and then sending us, you know, the paperwork and that everything is good to go. But if we wanted to create a fleet account, I mean, I was asking in the chat, but it sounds like there's no integration with them to be able to just like have their own, you know, account and then click on the fleets, like, and be able to integrate them together so we can track things. What would we need to do to be able to do this? Will we have to create a fleet account and add 170 trucks individually?
Yeah, so you wouldn't necessarily need to add them individually. We do have a bulk upload feature.
Okay.
That would, you know, obviously with that many trucks being uploaded at once, it would take some time to enter the information, then the system would need to process the file. And with a bulk upload that large, it might take, you know, a business day or two, just given all the information that's constantly being entered into the system. But yeah, at this time, there's no plan to do, you know, like we would call them like a parent-child account, basically. So, I mean, if, you know, if your drivers are submitting everything correctly and all their certificates are valid and all that, you know, there's really no issue. But if you do want to create a fleet account, in that case, what you'd probably want to do is report all the vehicles, make sure everything is, you know, up to date in terms of compliance. And then if the, you know, vehicle owners choose, they can just go in and deactivate the vehicle from their account and then email us to have us deactivate their actual account.
Okay, so I mean, so this fleet account is sounds like it's more designed for asset-based carriers who own their trucks.
I mean, not necessarily. I know there's plenty of accounts out there who, you know, they don't necessarily own their accounts, but, you know, these owner operators work for them. And, you know, you can have multiple people on those accounts if you create an entity account. But, you know, if it is just an individual owner operator who's got their own account with one truck, then they'll go with the individual account, which, you know, only allows for one person to be on there. So the entity accounts are more designed for multiple people to have access and, you know, visibility and things like that. And yeah, the individual accounts are just, you know, owner operator, motor homeowner, whatever, you know, things like that.
Okay, so if we tried to do that with all of these, all of those, you know, those trucks, those VIN numbers, is it going to show up as a duplicate because they already have accounts?
So if we were to search the VINs would show up as duplicative, but that shouldn't necessarily impact compliance at all. Some of them might show non-compliant in the account that they're most recently reported in just because of some issues with the fees transferring and stuff. But they would show as actually compliant in the system if they've met compliance requirements for the current compliance cycle, and that compliant VIN in the owner operator's account that they used to run would override the non-compliant VIN in the company account. So again, it might show non-compliant in your account, but if it's compliant in the owner operator's account, then the system would recognize it as compliant and it would, you know, be on all the, you know, compliant lists.
Okay, last question. But if that owner operator was to terminate their contract and go somewhere else, they would need to deactivate from our fleet account and reactivate for their account.
Yeah. So they would, I mean, they wouldn't necessarily need to deactivate their account. They could always just leave it and deactivate the vehicle from their account and then go in and reactivate it if they choose to do something like that.
Okay. So maybe it's better for us in our operations just to keep it how it is.
It might be, yeah. Again, as long as, you know, compliance is confirmed consistently, yeah. It might be, yeah. Just, you know, it's a lot of logistics to go ahead and enter a bunch of vehicles, you know, 170 is a lot. So, and, you know, keeping track of all of them at all the same time, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Thanks, Chris. All right. So we are out of raised hands. Do we have any questions in the Q&A?
Like there's one. Yeah, I'll go ahead and tackle that.
You gonna tackle it live or answer it via?
Yeah, I'll just tackle it live. So this attendee's asking, does the check engine light on an OVI test is not an automatic fail. We did update the tester training videos recently. So that might have changed as some discussions were had with enforcement.
Okay. All right. Well, this is your opportunity. The participants that are left, this is your opportunity. If you have any additional questions, please raise your hand or post them in the Q&A. We'll wait just a couple more minutes in case there are additional questions. Otherwise, we're going to end the presentation here and wish you all a great day. Just a couple minutes. Oh, looks like we have Andrew Lopshire. Can you unmute yourself?
I have a question for you. I had a couple vehicles that were out of service for an extended period of time. I did not mark them on the website as being out of service or anything. And there's no, when I look at the dates on there, there's no, we just had everything tested, but there's no dates for like the next, when the test is due or the fees or any of that stuff. So how do I get that thing updated and back into compliance on the website?
So you're saying, do the vehicles not show compliant currently?
Yes.
And their next due dates do not show?
Correct.
So, and you said you didn't deactivate or reactivate. Okay. Did you recently add them by any chance? It sounds like you didn't, but I just want to confirm that's not what happened.
They've been on there for a long time. So we had some issues too, like when we're getting our buses tested, sometimes there'd be like a big lag time in between, like when it was tested, like the tester would give us the receipt showing everything was uploaded, but then it wouldn't even show for a couple months in there. And then these things were out of service, so like we could not get them tested because they were broke down. But they've been in there for a long time.
Okay. Trying to think what might cause that. So you said the testers had submitted everything. Was it via email when they'd submitted, or was it through the CTC Viz system after the June update?
I don't know, to be honest. I remember seeing like their documentation because it wasn't showing, so I asked them for their documentation and they sent us all the stuff. I don't have it with me right now. That showed that they had uploaded everything, but it just wasn't showing in the system. So now the stuff I see is a little more current because we just put some buses through there. There's some stuff that was out of compliance and we ended up running everything through there. So those certificates are showing, but there's still some missing out of there too. So I don't know. But basically like the ones with no dates, how do we get that thing updated?
So in that case, you might want to go ahead and send us those VINs as well. We can maybe take a look into it on the back end and do some work from my side of things. And, we'd certainly have our database team look into the reason why, nothing's showing for those vehicles and see if we can make a determination and roll out a fix for them. Or if we just go in and fix them one by one manually.
Okay, that sounds good. Thanks.
Yep, you're welcome.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. Let's see. Ryan King, you're back.
Andrew sparked a question I had and forgot about. We got a couple units with cracked frames, and they potentially could be going across the U.S. to get fixed at the dealership. Do I deactivate those through the portal, or is there another way to basically put those out of service until they return and we can get them tested?
Yeah, vehicles that are going to be out of service for a long period of time, yeah, you can go ahead and deactivate them. In those cases, though, what you would want to look to do is maintain records of when they're being sent over to the dealership to get repaired, and then when you get them back, or when they get released from the dealership, or whatever you want to call it, and then get them tested as soon as possible. I know with OBD vehicles, it might take some time because they need to meet the readiness criteria. But yeah, just maintain documentation of those issues. Go ahead and deactivate those vehicles if they're going to be out of service for a long time. Now, when you reactivate them, they will show as non-compliant. So you would need to pay any past due compliance fees and, get them tested. What you could look to do in that scenario is apply for a 5-day pass for each one. Every vehicle is eligible for 1 5-day pass per year per VIN. So that might give you enough time to go ahead and get it ready for testing, and then hopefully it would pass. But yeah, you'll want to maintain those records. of when the vehicle gets sent and when you receive it back.
Okay, yeah, I'm hoping to test them before they even go, so we could be in that 90-day window and just have a compliant test. But in the off case we're not able to, maybe I'll have to deactivate them. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much a cracked frame would impact, an OBD or OVI test even. But yeah, that would be kind of an interesting case to get some data on.
Yeah, I see them sitting a long time. So like you said, those monitors aren't going to run, and then we're going to try to do it, and it's going to give us a non-passing test, I believe. So hopefully we can get a passing test and this is not an issue, but good information on the deactivation. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, you're welcome, Ryan. And then another attendee asked, can we ethically perform our fleet-wide attestation even though owned vehicles are deactivated due to long-term repairs? Yeah, you can do that. I mean, as long as the vehicles in your fleet are compliant and, you're not being, a bad actor by deactivating some non-compliant vehicles that truly aren't under repair or something like that and then attesting, yeah, that's okay. Again, if you're, being upfront and honest about, vehicles actually needing repairs, and that's part of why we request that you keep that documentation. You can do a fleet-wide certificate.
Okay, we have a raised hand. April Rosenquist, can you unmute yourself, please?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, so what can we expect if it's an exempt plated vehicle that missed the first window due to a vehicle being down or something, but then gets a passing test for its second window, and now we're going into the new year for that testing for twice a year, but it really only got one test. Either how do we handle it, or like what's the proper way to handle it, or like it's not going to be required to be tested back to back now that it's up and running, right? Or
Not necessarily. I would, again, just make sure to make every effort to ensure the vehicle gets tested twice a year. That would kind of be more of an enforcement question, and I'm not part of the enforcement team, and that would be kind of their discretion on that.
Okay.
But that is part of the reason we do recommend, maintaining all records of, vehicles that are down for repair, when they go to the shop, when they're out of the shop, and then get them tested as soon as possible. Yeah, just making every effort to, just maintain that information as well as ensuring all your vehicles get tested semi-annually.
Makes sense. Thank you.
All right, thank you, April. All right, once again, if you have any questions and you want to ask questions to Alex, please raise your hand. We'll take care of it. We're going to shut down here in just a couple more minutes. Okay. All right, well, it looks like we have all the written questions answered and no more raised hands. Is that what you see, Anthony?
Yep, that is what I see.
All right, so I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you for being here today. I hope we got some answers for you. Once again, I know that a lot of people have already gotten off here, but this is being recorded. There will be a recording available, a link to that recording in just a day or so. If you need it and it doesn't arrive to you via email, just send me an email and I will send that link to you. But as of right now, we are going to close the webinar out. Let's see. Let's see. Mac, I'm not seeing where I can do that. Do you want to see end slideshow?